if you're new here, my name is Brendan Wiley, and I'm the zoo director of the Topeka Zoo and Conservation Center. We really just wanted to take a few moments today to kind of provide what updates we have, and I'm the first one to admit that they aren't much, but we're getting enough questions that we thought we'd just share what we knew and give you guys the opportunity to ask what questions you have. So to a certain degree, you'll be guiding this today. But first, in regards to our keeper that was injured yesterday morning by a Sumatran tiger, she's still in the hospital, still in intensive care. What we're hearing, though, is that she may be transferred out of intensive care as early as tonight, which we're taking as good news. Obviously, we're not family, so we're speculating on that, but as it relates to her, we'll take whatever we can as good news. And also want to say, kind of on behalf of the family, thanks to everyone that has reached out with prayers and signs of hope. It's very meaningful, and would like to believe that they are working. Second, yesterday we mentioned an internal investigation that we'll be conducting here. That has started at this point, gathered personal reports, personal accounts from individuals that were at work yesterday. So we're taking statements from not just our animal care staff, but from somebody in our guest services department, what type of radio traffic they heard and who did what. I will tell you that from an operational perspective, I was extremely impressed at how fast things just happen. You know, you train and you train and you train for this type of thing. And when that emergency call went out yesterday, each department just went into action with what they were supposed to do. And within 10 minutes from start to finish, that tiger was secure inside an adjoining area, and medical personnel were rushing to the aid of our keeper. Finally, kind of that third category, if you will, the tiger himself. Sanjiv, 7-year-old male Sumatran tiger. Sumatran tigers critically endangered, somewhere between 400 and 500 left in the wild. About 78 in North American zoos, another maybe 80 European zoos, less than 800 worldwide. So an extremely genetically valuable species or specimen of that species. And yesterday, with a human in his space, he did what a tiger would do. He will not be euthanized. He's actually out in his outdoor habitat today. And for him, life is somewhat normal. For our other staff here at the zoo, yesterday was a little bit of a traumatic experience. And that healing will also take some time. But again, right now, our focus is kind of respecting the privacy of the family of our staff member that got injured, wishing her thoughts and prayers, and just thankful that today she may be a hair better than yesterday, and we'll take it one day at a time. And with that, I'll stand for any questions any of you may have.
So what kind of protocol changes are going to be made so this doesn't happen again?
Well, I think to really answer the question of are we going to be making protocol changes, we really have to identify that how did this happen? How did we get in this situation? And really the one piece of information we still need from that is from our staff person that's in the hospital. So she's got to get better first. And then when the time's right, we'll have that conversation with her. And I think there will be some kind of change in our policy and procedure. But but as of yet, I can't tell you exactly what that will be, but it's a process that we'll go through over the next probably 7 to 14 days.
You talked about this being a traumatic experience. How are you doing today?
You know, I am just thankful that our staff person survived this event. Sanjiv is an impressive male Sumatran tiger. You know, and tigers are built to be powerful animals. And somehow our staff person made it out of this alive. So in terms of how I'm feeling, just thankful that that happened. And thankful that this was not a worse situation. We have some staff members that really acted heroically yesterday. And, you know, I was not here. I got the call away from the zoo, you know, and some of our staff had to witness, you know, their teammate inside a tiger pen. And instead of freezing, they reacted in an amazing way. And just thankful, I think, to answer your question, thankful that those two things happened.
What was your reaction when you got that phone call?
What was going through my mind was the worst when we got that phone call. I've worked around animals and wildlife over half my life at this point, and know what can happen, know what has happened in other incidents. And to get that initial phone call with the worst case scenario and followed by a second phone call that the tiger's secure and our staff person is conscious and talking was just, I mean, you hear the expression paradigm shift. Our paradigm was shifting multiple times throughout yesterday morning. And I don't want to, you know, I mentioned that she was conscious, awake, talking as she left to the hospital, but the injuries, I think, and again, I'm kind of speculating here, but what we've heard is they're mostly soft tissue. Somehow, critical arteries and veins and bones were missed, and but you know, a lot of soft tissue injury to the back of her head, neck, back, one of her arms, and you know, we've gotten report from family at the hospital today that she's sleeping a lot. That's fine with us. She's where she needs to be, and our prayers and thoughts are with her. You know, it's an emotional period, I think, for all of us. You know, on one hand, we recognize that it could have gone very differently. From a different perspective, you know, it's an opportunity for us to reevaluate the definition of safety at this particular place, and really take a comprehensive look at all of our policies, procedures, the way we feed animals, the way we interact with animals. We have an incredible staff here that does amazing things through what we call a cooperative training behavior program. You know, we do blood draws from our awake lions and tigers and apes and bears, and you know, all through positive reinforcement training, and give injections and take blood pressures from animals that, you know, in years past would have had to have been anesthetized to get that type of medical workup. But in everything we do now, we've got to make sure we're doing it as safely as we can. And you know, that process started yesterday, actually, making sure that we're not shifting potentially dangerous animals without two people there. You know, and we'll evaluate different types of lock systems. But so, you know, is it emotional? Sure. And you know, we're just waiting for the day that our staff member can come back to work. She'll be welcomed with open arms, and I'm just thankful for the great team that we have here and the work that they do.
You talked about the staff member. You talked about the overall program. It's been described as a family, a really tight-knit group.
Yeah, we consider ourselves to be a smaller zoo. We sit on about 34 acres, developed. We've got a full-time staff combined of about 35 people. So even our size, we describe our size as embraceable. This is a great place for a person, for a grandparent, for a mother to push a stroller through. And so I describe it that way because we're a very family-centered place, and that includes our staff. You know, you can't be this size with that few number of people on your team and not know each other really well, not cheer for each other really loudly. You know, we may be a smaller zoo, but nobody thinks that we've got small ambition. We're doing amazing things, even with tiger conservation, half a world away. The training that we do here is top notch. I'm always amazed at what our staff achieves, and they achieve it because they lean on each other, they need each other. We're one down today. The family feels that, if you will. But we'll heal and keep fighting the good fight.
Aside from this fact, what are the qualities that you really admire about this woman? How would you describe it?
Dedicated is probably the first word that would come out there. She's dedicated, meticulous, pays attention to the smallest detail, and accepts any challenge. We kind of a tangent story, if you will. We thought we were the first zoo on the way to being able to collect semen from a male tiger. First zoo in North America to collect semen from an awake male Sumatran tiger and then walk across the hall and artificially inseminate a female awake Sumatran tiger because of the amazing training that had been done with these animals. As it turned out, the only thing that got in the way of that was her naturally conceiving. But that type of challenge, you know, for the good of the program, for the good of the population, and in this reference I'm speaking about the animal population, very challenge driven, a very special individual.
Are we identifying her yet?
We're not yet, and I don't know if we will. And what I mean by that is her family has requested that we not, and I think that we're just going to respect that wish.
You talk about preparing for crisis situations like these. What does that process look like, and how often does it occur?
We train formally at least 4 times a year. And I say that because that's the accreditation standard. We do it more here, and we use a lot of different types of crisis management training platforms. Frequently we start with tabletop, where we're just sitting in a staff meeting. Here's what happens, what do you do? We take that a notch higher when we're going to run a scenario in the zoo. And sometimes we do it before the zoo opens, sometimes we actually do it when the zoo's open so that we've got the obstacle of guests to deal with. We train with different parties, including the Topeka Fire Department. the Topeka Police Department, a large animal rescue group out of Olathe. We believe in bringing kind of partners into that emergency preparedness scenario, even working with the different operators in this park. We're two organizations work out of here at the City of Topeka, Friends of the Topeka Zoo, but the county's next door, the Civic Theater's next door that way. Sometimes it's important to bring all those parties into the planning stage of a drill, and that's why yesterday when that call went out, all the pieces just flowed, and it's very impressive to observe.
And we just had those tiger cubs, and there's kind of a purpose for these Sumatran tigers since they're endangered. Is this going to affect how any of this goes on carrying forward with breeding them and anything like that?
Your question about how this affects the future breeding of Sanjiv, the only way it affects it. Well, let me start that answer over, which I realize I can't do in a live press conference. But anyway, so Sanjiv just had a litter of 4 cubs. That makes his genetics more populated. As those cubs grow up and move to other zoos, it all depends on the genetic diversity. When you're talking, if you look at this zoo, for example, 3 years ago, our female had a litter of 3 cubs. Last fall had a litter of 4. So there's 7, plus mom and dad and a different dad for the first litter. Now there's 10 animals out of 80 that genetics are all related here. So we're not sure what Sanjiv's future looks like in terms of, will he stay here, will he move, who will he be paired with, but at the same time, as those genetics are evaluated, this situation that happened doesn't play into that at all.
To clarify, how was the staff first alerted that an attack was happening?
To clarify how the staff was first alerted, I should probably say my understanding is that members of the visiting public in front of our tiger exhibit saw this happening and turned around, saw one of our elephant keepers, and told her.
Is there a live video feed of that exhibit that someone monitors, or?
That's a good question, especially because there are live cameras on the other half of that habitat. The habitat's split in half. Sanjiv, the male, is on the north side, and mom and cubs are on the south side. Because those cubs have so much genetic value for the future of their population, we essentially plan to never let dad be in with the cubs. There's solitary animals in the wild, and each cub is so valuable, we don't want to risk dad actually eating one of the cubs. So he's on the south side. All of our cameras, he's on the north side. All of our cameras are on the south side that were placed there for the purpose of allowing people the opportunity to watch the tiger cubs grow up. It seems like each year we try to expand a little bit with some of our cameras and webcams, but that is a program that only covers a portion of the zoo.
Just a quick question, just about the staff. How long do you know how long she's been with the zoo?
I believe she started here in 2002. She's been part of our family for a long time. Started out working here in our education department, and then switched to animal care, and was working. I'm thinking back, working with our tigers before I got here, and I've been here almost 9 years now.
Do you know her age?
I don't, and that is an honest answer. We have a human resources department downtown that would keep that personnel information is not maintained here at the zoo, is what I'm getting at. So I'm not trying to protect her age. I honestly don't know it.
One more question just about the cameras. I know you said right now the cameras are specifically to monitor the cubs, but is there something? Would you consider getting cameras on that side of the area just to monitor just in case something like this would happen again? You were able to see what happened.
You know, to answer your question, would we consider adding cameras to the tiger area? What we'll be doing is really looking at, you know, what are those like situations around the zoo? We would not just do it over Sanjiv's area, if you will, because we don't believe it was the area that failed. But if we decide that we want to take that level of security, if you will, over all of our carnivores, then we would do it over our lions, our tigers, our mountain lions, all at the same time. Probably include bears in there as well. If you ask me that question again in about 2 weeks, I'll have a better answer for you.
Is there any word on if the keeper plans on returning to her job when she recovers?
No word on that at all. We haven't asked that question. She did amazing work with amazing animals, but that doesn't necessarily comfort spouses and family members. I'm sure that's a conversation they will have at some point in time, and whatever choice they make, that qualification of being part of our family remains regardless.
And so, how will things look going forward today and through the next week?
You know, today we tried to approach today as a normal day in the life of kind of our Sumatran tiger program, and the tigers treated it like a normal day. One of our staff, yesterday, we told our animal care staff that if you needed to not work today, don't work today. That was a lot for some of them to take in. And one of our staff chose to not work today, and that was fine. We most likely will have someone here tomorrow afternoon, a psychologist for any of our staff to talk to, if they wish. But you know, it will be more normal of a day once we know our team member is on the way to a good recovery. If there's no other questions, just like to say thank you. Thanks for the thoughts. Thanks for the prayers. You hear this type of story, but they really do seem to matter. So keep it up. We would appreciate it. Thank you.
Do you
Yeah.
know if this woman is she talking, communicating?
Yes. She was talking last night. She was coming out of the anesthesia and kind of in and out of sleep and kind of talking, maybe not totally coherently, but not quite like today we hear that she's sleeping a lot. but most of the signs are really positive. Grips with both hands. There was an early fear that one of her arms was pretty badly injured, and but we just don't feel like it's our place to really push yet. Once she's out of ICU, then friends and family can start lining up. But all right. Well, thank you, and we will keep you updated.